Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Ultimate Cleveland Guardians Show. Not a great weekend for the Guardians. They lost 2 out of 3 to Toronto, and there are some concerns with the starting pitching. But Stephen Kwan is stealing the headlines. Zach, is he going to be the first player in over 80 years to hit 400? Don't answer.
Why stop there? The way he's going, 450.
It's unbelievable. That's all coming up on this edition of the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show, part of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show family. All right, let's get right to it, Zach. We will get to what happened this weekend. Not a great weekend as they lose their second series in a month for the Blue Jays. But I feel like starting with good news, and that's Stephen Kwan. This has been absolutely ridiculous, this heater that he's on. He's batting .396 after getting 4 hits yesterday.
398.
I'm sorry, 398. Why did I say 396? I think that's probably
short.
before his last at bat. I'm shorting him. 398. The last player to hit 400 in a season, of course, is Ted Williams, who did it in 1941 when he batted .406. And by the way, there's been technically in the history of baseball, there's been 35 guys that have hit 400 or better, but most of them happened in the 1890s and the 1910s and 20s. I call bogus on that. But there's only been 4 players in our lifetime, 3 players, sorry, Zach, in our lifetime, and I'm older than you, obviously, who have even hit 380 in my life. You had Tony Gwynn, who hit 394 in 94, George Brett, who hit 390 in 1980, and Rod Carew. I was 6 years old, not your lifetime, actually 2 in your lifetime. I was 6 years old when Rod Carew hit 388. The next highest is Larry Walker at 379. This is crazy what he's doing right now. I know it's a long way to go, but this is, and the next highest batting average is like what, Luis Ariz at 330 or something like that. I mean, he's 60 points ahead.
I was trying to think of like, what's my favorite stat?
Yeah.
Because I spent my Father's Day just researching Stephen Kwan numbers and had a blast. I mean, it's a throwback. It's the antithesis to what we see across the league today, where pitchers are so good and hitters struggle to make contact with a 98-mile-an-hour fastball followed by a 92-mile-an-hour slider and a splitter and all these pitches that it's just become so difficult to do exactly what Kwan does. And so he comes to the plate. I mean, I'm thinking Sunday, I think he was 2 for 3 at one point. I'm like, hey, what another really good day. And then he slaps another single. And I'm like, all right, this is getting ridiculous. Then he gets another at bat in the ninth. Because of what the Rocchio home run. And I'm thinking, like, this guy's got 3 hits. Like, there's no way. The law of averages has to come into play here. And he rips one up the middle, and it's like he's being greedy almost. And it's so impressive because he came off the injured list. Remember, his rehab stint was kind of messed up. I think they had a rain out, and I think ideally they would have liked to get him a couple more games in AAA before he came back. But, I don't know. Maybe not, because in 11 games since returning, he's 23 for 43. I think it's a .535 average.
Yeah.
So I struggled deciding what my favorite stat was, but you alluded to it. Bobby Witt Jr. actually took over the lead from Luis Ariz yesterday.
Right.
And Witt's hitting 327. So Stephen Kwan is 18 plate appearances shy of being able to qualify for the batting crown. So when that happens in probably a couple weeks,
yeah,
I would think that he'll be in the lead because that's a 71-point lead right now. And to fall behind where Witt is at 327, to go from 398 down to 327, Kwan would have to go 0 for his next 39. So the guy is just incredible right now.
It's crazy. And yeah, it is weird. I brought up the leaderboard and I'm like, what is happening? And then I'm like, oh yeah, he's still a few plate appearances shy. And he's, like you said, it'll happen in the next couple of weeks that he'll make up those, because you have to average 3.1 per game your team has played, not per game you've played. And obviously he's averaging, I don't know, he's averaging over 4 plate appearances per game these days. So if he, at the very least, it'll take 17 games, or the very most, it'll take 17 games, because he's going to play every day right now. You're not taking him out of the lineup at all. But yeah, I mean, there's so many great stats. Another one that I love is something you tweeted. I don't know if it was last night you tweeted it or this morning. I can't remember. I saw it this morning. I don't know when you tweeted it, but about comparing him to when Ichiro broke the record. Now he's not on pace to break the record because he missed a month, but in terms of hits per game, give us that stat because that one I really liked also.
So Ichiro in 2004, and by the way, Ichiro was one of Kwan's idols growing up. Like you
Sure.
see when he like crouches down and then does like a big stretch and stuff before he gets into the batter's box. That's modeled off of Ichiro. And 20 years ago, Ichiro set the single season MLB hits record with 262. The previous record, George Sisler, who I'm sure you remember, you were a big fan of.
Oh, big time.
He had 200 hits in 1920. So Ichiro broke a record that had stood for 84 years. And that season, with his 262 hits, he averaged 1.6273 hits per game. Kwan this season, now it's 43 games, so there's a long way to go. And he's not going to get there because, as you said, he missed a month. But Kwan this season is averaging 1.6279 hits per game. So 6/10,000ths of a hit per game more than Ichiro was averaging when he set an MLB record that had stood forever. So just to put into context how ridiculous this is going. I mean, like there's a million sets. He's got 11 3-hit games and 7 0-hit games.
That's impossible. There can't be. I mean, I would like to know the last time a player had more 3-hit games than 0-hit games because I'm guessing it's been a long. It might be since Tony Gwynn. I mean that could be it.
He's got 11 3-hit games and 14 strikeouts. Like I don't know, how do you pitch to him?
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, and why he's going to continue to get opportunities is because as good as he is, he's not really a power threat, or at least not a home run threat. And so, when you face him, you're not worried like you're facing an Aaron Judge, because you make a mistake to Aaron Judge, well, he's going to hit a home run. So Kwan's just going to get a single, get a double, whatever. And so in a way, pitchers, I don't know, but like, he's playing right now. Like I think of the great pure hitters as a kid. I remember Rod Carew as a young kid and, Tony Gwynn and Wade Boggs and Ichiro. Those are the four guys that kind of stand, and we can't put him in that class yet because those guys did it over many, many years. But he's playing this. He's looks like those guys right now, where it felt impossible. You hear Greg Maddux or John Smoltz or Pedro Martinez talk about Tony Gwynn. It's like we couldn't get him out. And you're talking about the greatest pitchers in their era. And right now, there's got to be some pitchers in this league who are like, we can't get this guy out. I mean, it's insane. And especially that he's doing this, as you say. I mean, last year we had, the least amount of 300 hitters ever?
Yeah, I mean, so like the league average OPS is 699, and that's the lowest it's been since 1988.
Low.
Yeah, it's been lowest it's been in 36 years. And Kwan, his OPS is over 1,000 now. And a lot of that is fueled by the batting average and the on-base percentage, just being on base all the time. But, he does have 14, I think, extra base hits or 616 extra base hits.
Yeah.
You make a good point because if you're a pitcher, the problem is like you could pitch around him, but like you're not going to get him to chase. The guy has as good of an eye as any hitter in the league, right? He never chases. He makes contact with everything. So if you try to throw something outside the zone, he's not going to chase it.
Right.
You could walk him, but if you feel like, well, if I throw it in the strike zone, he's just going to get a single, it's the same result, and it's just quicker. So that's also, it almost makes me think that I don't know how sustainable this is, but I do think to a degree it's sustainable because pitchers are just you have to throw him strikes.
Yeah.
So there's no point to walking him.
Right. I mean, that was the thing. And that was the thing with the guys we mentioned, especially Tony Gwynn. Like, he didn't swing at bad pitches. And Stephen Kwan doesn't swing at bad pitches or obviously everybody does once in a while, but almost never. The other day, I can't remember which game it was. He took a called strike 3 the other day. I don't know if you remember which game it was. And it was a good pitch. And I was like stunned because I couldn't believe it. Because he almost never swings at a bad pitch and he almost never takes a good pitch. And he struck out on a pitch that was basically right down the middle. I think it was a 3-2 pitch. I can't remember now, sometime in the last week. And it was stunning. Like with most players, you're like, it happens all the time. Who cares? But with him, it was so stunning to see him take a good pitch.
It's like the technology malfunctioned or something.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, well, we can go on all day about the stats about him.
Do you think he can hit 400?
I want to say yes, but I mean, if Tony Gwynn couldn't do it, I just don't see how Stephen Kwan can do it.
Do you think he could hit 380?
I see. That's the thing. I do think he can hit 380. I think he can hit 380. What do you say? Do you think he can hit 400? I want it to happen so bad. I mean, I'm rooting for it.
I mean, there's almost 100 games left.
Yeah. I mean,
that's really hard.
But think about it. He's got to go. Let's say he gets 5 at-bats every game, which most games he's going to get 5 at-bats more often than not. So to hit 400, he's got to go essentially 2 for 5 the rest of the year. And for him, that doesn't seem crazy right now, but over the course of a season, every game, because he will have some offers, right? And every offer, you got to now have another 3 for 5 and another 3 for 5 or a couple of 4 for 5s. It gets so hard. I want it to happen so bad. I think 380 is certainly doable. 370 certainly doable. I don't think he's going to drop to 340. I just don't see that happening. But I mean, there's a reason nobody's hit 400 in over 80 years.
The year Ichiro set the record with 262 hits, he hit 372.
Yeah.
So
it's absurd. That's amazing.
Right. And he didn't average 2 hits a game. So it's really hard to do. The cool thing to me is he's put himself in position where he legitimately could hit 370.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, he'd slump the rest of the way and hit 350. So, and if you look at the last 75 years in Cleveland, you know who has the highest batting average? Any hitter in Cleveland for a season where they had 400 plate appearances or more. Highest batting average.
I'm going to make a bad guess. I'm going to say Manny Ramirez.
So Manny Ramirez is the most recent to hit 350. Okay. In 2000, he hit 351.
Yeah.
In 94, Albert Bell hit 357. In 1959, Tito Francona hit 363.
Wow.
That's the highest average by a Cleveland hitter in the last 75 years. But those are the only 3 guys to hit 350.
Yeah.
So
that's amazing. That's amazing.
This does not happen often.
So he's got a chance. What turn of the century? There were some Cleveland players, probably, right?
Yeah, I mean, like Kenny Lofton had a 349 season.
Right. The highest ever, according to this, Jesse Burkett of the 1896. Oh, that was the Cleveland Spiders, I think. Hit 410. Joe Jackson, 1911 Cleveland Indians hit 408.
I mean, that's the company he's keeping.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. And I'm here for all of it. And I know you are too, Zach. You know him way better than I. I've interviewed him, I think, twice. We've talked about this before. Seems like one of the most likable players.
Just a regular dude.
Yeah, he comes off so regular, as you say. I am 100% rooting for him. I want to just say, yes, he can hit 400. I just think, like, Tony Gwynn, to me, is the greatest hitter I've ever seen. And he came the closest. And if he couldn't do it, I just don't see how I can say Stephen Kwan can. But, man, if we go to the last day of the season and he's got even a chance, that's going to be exciting.
What if he's hitting like 401? Do you put him in the lineup?
If I were him, I'd want to play because I wouldn't want to do it that way. But I don't know. What would you do?
Stephen Vogt had a story that his first year in pro ball, he was hitting like 298, or was he hitting? No, he was hitting 300.
Yeah.
And or like whatever he could go 0 for 3, I think.
Yeah.
And his average would stay at 300, but if he went 0 for 4, it would go below.
Right.
And Matt Quattraro, the Royals manager, was his manager in A-ball. And he was aware of that. And he said, like, hey, man, if it gets to a point where your average can slip below 300, I'm going to take you out. And Vogt was appreciative of that because it was his first year in pro ball. He didn't seem to, no one thought this guy was going to reach the big leagues, let alone be a 2-time All-Star. He was really old for the level.
Yeah.
And he gets to like the on deck circle. He's ready. Like the inning's about to start. He's already 0 for 3, I think. And he's ready to take another at bat. And he's like, thought you were going to pull me here. What are you doing? And then at like the last second, Quatraro was like, hey, hit the bench. And he ended
All
up
right,
hitting
so
300.
I guess that'll happen then if Stephen Kwan's hitting 401, which is, I mean, that's just, if we even have to have that discussion, that I can't even wrap my head around that because.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Like his longest streak this season without a hit is 7 plate appearances.
Not even 7 at bats, 7 plate appearances.
Plate appearances.
That's
so
sick.
when
That's sick.
I mean, he hasn't slumped. He hasn't slumped for multiple days.
Right. Does he go to if in his next at bat he gets a hit? Does he go to 400 or will it be 399? Do we know?
No, I think it'll be over 400. I know if he would have gone 4 for 4 yesterday instead of 4 for 5, he'd be right at 400.
Okay. So then, all right, we'll see. Their day off today for the Guardians. There are other things to talk about, believe it or not, about Stephen Kwan. We're going to get into them in just a second. The team did lose 2 out of 3 over the weekend. But first, I got to talk to you about FanDuel, folks. Love FanDuel if you're not using it. That's winner take all time. NBA Finals finishing up, Stanley Cup Finals. FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/UCSS and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, let's get back to it. This weekend, the Guardians losing 2 out of 3. They did fight back yesterday, made it 7-6, had the tying run at the plate, but they couldn't get that. Although Jimenez hit it, I thought off the bat it had a chance, but then you see Kiermaier out there, and you know he's going to get to it. But disappointing loss. Guardians did not play a great series in Toronto, which has been rare for them. They lose 2 out of 3. They've lost 3 of 4 overall. Is there some? Are we starting to get nervous about the pitching, or are you starting to get nervous about the starting pitching? I would say I've already been nervous about the starting pitching, and this last week has not helped that nervousness.
No, it feels like they have to. It feels like they have to win a certain way. Like when's the last time they won a game where it didn't require the bullpen to be awesome? Like Nick Sandlin, he had a really rough day Sunday.
Yeah.
And there was no margin for error. And I think that's because the starting pitching gets them in trouble. Yeah. And the offense has just been missing a beat lately. And I think it's all the things we've talked about, Bull, all the things we've thought for a while now that just it's front and center for the front office. This is what you need to fix. The rotation, you can't. I don't think you can survive 162 games and a playoff run the way it's constructed.
No.
And I think you're a bat and a half, 2 bats short.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you said to me they could only improve pitching or hitting, I'd say you got to improve the starting rotation. It shouldn't be a choice. It should be a both things. I agree with you. They need a bat, definitely 1 bat, and probably 2. But the most important priority has got to be the starting rotation. I mean, I'm about done with the Carlos Carrasco, and we all love Cookie, but he's running on fumes at this point. He's barely holding it together. Ben Lively didn't pitch great in his last start, although he did pitch great this time. I don't want to, kill him because he's been great and it's 1 start. But I don't trust Tristan McKenzie. Logan Allen's been up and down. Bibby's been really good, but he's had trouble going deep. And they had, I think they had that game against the Marlins where they won 8-0. And, the bullpen, if they weren't perfect, would have been fine because they were up 8-0 after they got 6 in, I think, the 5th inning. But you're right. For the most part,
that's over a week ago.
No margin for error.
Yeah. It's tough. I mean, aside from Bibby, I guess, and he's not immune to this either. Like they don't have starting pitchers that you're confident are going to give you 6 innings.
No.
And that's an issue. And they've been able to survive that, especially lately, because they've had so many off days.
Right.
Where you have a 2-game series in Cincinnati. Well, you can unload the bullpen those 2 days knowing You had an off day before and you have an off day after. Same thing with the Marlins series. And you could do that over the weekend in Toronto too. But that's not the case now. Now you got 2 straight weeks without an off day,
Yep.
and you've got some tough competition. Mariners, Blue Jays, at Orioles, at Royals. Those are 4 series those are teams that either want to be contenders or legitimately are contenders. I mean, Baltimore is as good as any team in baseball, I think. So it's going to be tough. And you're not going to be able to just lean on the bullpen to bail you out every single night for 5 innings. You need some length out of your starters. So this is going to be an interesting stretch. And I almost wonder if the front office is just sitting there wishing they could fast forward a month to when the trade market really heats up so that they could swing a deal. Because it's tough to do that in mid-June because sellers are going to wait to try to drive up the price and get closer to deadline when teams are more desperate. And I don't know if anyone's more desperate for starting pitching than Cleveland is.
No. And, you're right. It's, 4 weeks until the All-Star break. You talk about the sellers. There aren't a lot of sellers right now. I don't know if you've seen the wild card in the National League, but this is crazy.
It's gross.
Right now, there's 4 teams in the National League that are doing really well. Obviously, the Dodgers lead the West. The Phillies lead the East, the Brewers lead the Central, and the Braves are in second place in the East, and they're in good shape for the first wild card. Those are the only 4 teams in the National League over 500. The second wild card is the Cardinals right now. They're 35-35. The team in 13th place in the National League, the Mets, is only 2 games back of the Cardinals for the second wild card and a game and a half back of the Padres, who are under 500. So you have from the Cardinals, the Padres, the Nationals, the Diamondbacks, the Giants, the Reds, the Pirates, the Cubs, and the Mets are all between 35-35 or 33-37. So none of those teams are going to throw in the towel, especially when you look at the bottom 2 of those teams, the Cubs and the Mets, big market teams. The Mets have won 5 in a row. The Cubs are playing terribly, but I don't think they're going to throw in the towel. I just don't see it. So right now it's the Rockies, the Marlins, the White Sox, the Angels, and the A's. That's it. I mean, those are the only 5 sellers at the moment. We thought the Blue Jays might be. They're not. So you got 5 sellers, and those teams are awful.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not that much for them to sell. So anything they do have of value is going to cost a ton, as you say.
And that's why this is going to get gummed up for a month, is because you need some of these teams to separate themselves.
Yeah.
You said it. I mean, a lot of those teams fighting for the wild card, they're treading water in the National League, came into the season thinking they'd contend.
Yeah.
So the Cubs aren't going to just pull the plug yet.
Nope.
The Reds and the Cardinals aren't going to pull the plug yet. The Mets probably won't pull the plug yet. And the Mets are 5-0 since Grimace threw out a first pitch, by the way. That's what they think got them on track. The Diamondbacks just went to the World Series. I don't think they're going to sell off everything they've got. And the Padres, all they do is go for it. So it's this. That's why this is going to take time. And if you're the White Sox, another thing to think about here too is like the Dodgers just had 2 starters go on the injured list.
Yeah.
The Orioles lost Bradish.
Yep.
They're going to be in the market for starting pitching. So this
Atlanta.
this is going to be tricky. But there's no excuse if you're the Guardians. I mean, you can't waste a start like this. But you are going to have to pony up.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to be aggressive, which they have not been in the trade market. But and I get it. Like the Baltimore and the Yankees are looking really good. They're really good teams. But I mean, you're in great shape to win this division. You've got a good team. The top of their lineup is outstanding. I mean, the top of the lineup's outstanding. So get me 2 starters. I know that, and they don't. When I'm not asking them to get 2 aces, I'm saying get me 2 solid starters.
Like Eric Fetty?
Fine. You want to get Tyler Anderson?
Sure.
Yeah, obviously we've talked about Luzardo a couple of times. I'd like to try to get 1 front-end starter. These 5 teams don't have much in terms of front-end starters. And then 1 guy that's like a middle-of-the-rotation guy. Even, I know he's been hurt all year. I don't know what his contract is. I think it might be bad, so maybe this doesn't make sense. But I'm thinking like Kyle Freeland from Colorado. You know what? Honestly, Cal Quantrill's been phenomenal for Colorado. He's got an ERA under like 3 and change And since I want to say his last 40-something innings, his ERA is under 3. He's been great.
And pitching there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he makes 15 million this year and then 16, and then a vesting option for
Forget that.
17.
So he's out. But Quantrill, man, I bet they regret trading him right now. I didn't think much of it because I didn't think he was that good. And I don't know that he's that good, and I haven't watched him actually pitch that much this year, but he's been great.
Yeah, that's what's so weird about the season is we all came into it thinking, Bieber in a contract year, McKenzie healthy, Bybee and Williams and Allen in year 2.
Yeah.
If this team's going to be 44-25 at this point in the season, it's going to be because that rotation is as good as any in the league, and it's been the opposite.
It's been crazy. The bullpen's been phenomenal. The top of the lineup's been phenomenal. It's been a weird season. It's been a lot of fun. And now the front office needs to do their job with some help from ownership and get it done. All right, we're going to wrap up in a few minutes. I do want to get some comments from some of the people in the chat. Let's see. Bussin' Nuts says message. Should the guards give up the shortstop search and move focus elsewhere since Schneemann seems to fit in well? What do you think?
I will say Rocchio has
been
better the last few weeks. Schneemann looks really good. Like, he just looks like a polished major league hitter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine. Like, between him and Fry's
Freeman off finally.
Yeah, they've got so much versatility that I just think when you're targeting a hitter at the deadline, just target anyone. Just target the hitter. Don't target the position.
That's right.
Because you got enough guys who can move around.
That's right.
That you can fit anyone into the mix.
I agree. I want to get one big bat in this lineup with some power to lengthen it, but I think the position doesn't really matter. By the way, Manzardo not playing at all right now? What is going on there? What do you make of that?
You've seen them do this they did it with Bo Naylor too, where they sit them for a few days, have them work on their swing mechanics and whatnot, and then get him in the lineup. I don't know. I feel like he needs to be playing every day, especially if he's just DHing. Feels like they're kind of wasting his roster spot. It's weird to me. He's hit a ton of doubles. It's strange that he doesn't have a home run yet, but I also wonder how he's supposed to get in a rhythm when he's not playing often enough.
Nick says, let's go front office. The starting pitching issues are coming to roost. We have no ace, a bunch of third and fourth starters grouped together. Bybee's better than that, but the rest of the rotation right now is third and fourth starters at best. Evan, Twins are right back in it. Royals are falling off. We got to go get starting pitching. Joe, have you guys seen the reports that the Guardians may take a discounted player that wouldn't go in the top 5 with the first pick? That would be terrible. Teams do that to save money sometimes. They cannot do that. I don't think
I'd be shocked if they did that with the first pick.
That'd be insane.
It's not like they have the first pick in every round.
Right.
I've seen people hint at that. I know like Keith Law covers it for us at The Athletic, and he had heard whispers of that, but I think even he really wasn't buying it. And he also said it'd be a huge mistake. There are 2 clear-cut options at number 1.
Yeah.
And they could be in your lineup next summer.
Yeah.
I don't think you fumble that.
Oh, Karen says, hi to both of you. Hi, Karen. Why are we keeping Carlos Carrasco? He needs to go. Guardians forever. Yeah. Well, we discussed that earlier.
The big problem is there's no one at AAA. Gavin Williams, once he's ready, he's the guy, but he didn't look great over the weekend. Joey Cantillo's still working his way back. Xavier Curry's been horrendous at AAA.
There's no options right now.
It's the first time in a long time where they've been in this situation.
Yeah. Real rapid fire. Carlos says Roberts and Crochet, that you have to give up a boatload to get it. I'd be thrilled if they made that trade, but you'd have to give up a ton.
Crochet, what's he going to be available to do in the second half? I think his career high in innings is like 54. So he might have to be a reliever for the second half of this year. Yeah. I don't know.
Jonah says Manzardo reminds me of Yandy Diaz. Q says, what's going on, y'all? Is there any bat you particularly looking at? And Spencer says, I think the Blue Jays trades are off the table. All true. We'll dive. We got to get going. But next week we'll dive more into the trade market and see who are some of the hitters and pitchers.
Hey, sweep the Blue Jays this weekend, and you can push them into being a seller.
That's right. That's it. But they've been playing much better. Zach, great stuff as always. We'll be back on next Monday. We'll talk to you then. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Make sure you subscribe. It's the ultimate Cleveland Guardian show. We'll see you next time.